They call me a slave. It isn't my name. I don't even know what my name truly is anymore. But that's what everyone calls me. As if I'm not a person, just a tool, a piece of earth someone else owns. My life begins before dawn, ends long after the sun has set. I wake when the stars are still shining, work until my muscles burn and my skin cracks, and collapse into sleep with dust on my lips and pain in my bones. My hands are rough, my back carries scars from the whip. But there's one thing inside me that no master has ever been able to kill. Dreams. Dreams that one day I will walk free, breathe without fear, choose where my feet go and what my heart loves. My mother used to whisper to me when I was a boy. One day, she would say, these chains will break. You will not always live like this. I would laugh bitterly and shake my head. Mother, these are just stories. Slaves don't get freedom. Slaves are born to die as slaves. She would smile sadly, stroke my hair, and whisper back, never stop dreaming. Dreams are the only thing that break chains. Years passed. I grew taller, stronger, harder. I worked the fields like all the others. The master's son was cruel, proud, and quick-tempered. He treated us like animals, sometimes worse. One day he ordered me to fetch water for the horses. I ran, but in my hurry, the jug slipped from my hands and shattered on the ground. The whip came down on my back in front of everyone. The pain was fire, but I refused to scream. That day, for the first time, I realized my mother might have been right. The world was cruel, yes. But inside me there was a fire that no whip could extinguish. And then one day, something changed. I saw her. She was standing by the well, filling a clay pot with water. Her clothes were simple but clean, her face soft, and there was a strange light in her eyes. A kind of calm, quiet strength. She looked at me and said, "You're new here, aren't you?" Her voice startled me. No one ever spoke to me like that. "Yes," I said quietly. "I work in the fields." She smiled. "I'm from the nearby village. I come here sometimes." It was the first time someone had spoken to me like I was human, not just a pair of hands that labored in the dirt. After that day, whenever I went to fetch water, she would sometimes be there. Slowly, we began to talk. I told her about my life, my dreams, my longing to escape these endless chains. She would listen, her eyes soft, then smile and say, "You are a slave, yes, but your eyes are free. You are not like the others. You still believe." Her words did something to me. They lit a spark in my chest. For the first time, I felt maybe my life was not meant to be just pain and dust. As days passed, we grew closer. When I spoke to her, the world seemed to stop. For a few minutes, I was no longer a slave. I was just me. But happiness never lasts long for someone like me. One afternoon, as we were talking by the well, the master's son appeared. His face twisted with anger when he saw us together. "A slave and a free girl?" he spat. "This is a disgrace." He shoved me so hard I fell to the ground. "If I see you near her again, I will skin you alive." That night I lay awake in the dark, my back still aching from the shove, and I made a choice. I would not stop seeing her. She was the only light I had. After that, we began to meet in secret. At night, when everyone else was asleep, we would sit at the edge of the fields under the stars. She would tell me stories about faraway places, about freedom, about what the world looked like beyond the borders of the estate. One night she pressed something into my hand. A small old key, wrapped in cloth. "This belongs to my family's old house," she said. "Keep it with you. Whenever you feel trapped, look at this. It will remind you that somewhere in the world, there is a place where your heart can be free." I hung the key around my neck. It was the most precious thing I had ever been given. That night, lying in the dust, I touched it and whispered to myself, "I am still a slave, but my heart is free now, because my heart belongs to her." But happiness is a dangerous thing for someone like me. One day the master discovered us again. This time there was no shouting, no warning, just punishment. They dragged me into the courtyard, tied me to the post, and whipped me until my back was raw. The pain was so deep, it felt as though they were tearing out pieces of my soul. She was there, standing at the edge of the courtyard, tears streaming down her face, but her chin held high. I forced myself to stay silent, to not cry out, because I wanted her to see that they could hurt me, but they could not break me. That night I lay in the dark cell, bleeding, my breath shallow. My fingers found the key around my neck, cold against my skin. One day, I whispered to the darkness, "These chains will break." Days passed inside the dark cell. My wounds burned, my body ached, but it was the silence that hurt the most. No voice, no sky, no light, just the sound of rats scurrying across the floor and my own breathing. Sometimes I would close my eyes and imagine the stars. Imagine the well where we used to meet. Imagine her smile. That was the only thing that kept me alive. Then, one night, I heard footsteps. Quiet, careful footsteps. The key turned in the lock, and the heavy door creaked open. She stood there. Her face was pale, her eyes glistening with tears, but there was determination in her expression. "I'm here to get you out," she whispered. I sat up slowly, my body weak from pain and hunger. "This is too dangerous," I said, my voice hoarse. "If they catch you," she shook her head fiercely. "If they catch me, so be it. I can't let you die in this cage." She reached out her hand. I took it. Her fingers were warm and soft, so different from the cold iron of the chains around my wrists. We crept out into the night. The estate was silent, the guards asleep. Every shadow felt like a threat, every sound like a shout. My heart pounded, but I didn't let go of her hand. We ran through the fields, past the stables, past the boundary wall, until the world opened up in front of us. For the first time in my life, I was beyond the land I had always known. The night air felt different here, fresher, freer, but we were not safe yet. We had to keep moving. We reached the river just before dawn. Its dark waters rushed past, cold and merciless. She turned to me, breathing hard. "If we can cross this river, we'll be beyond their reach. There is a village on the other side where no one will recognize us." I stared at the water. It looked deep and dangerous, but freedom was waiting on the other side. "Let's go," I said. We stepped into the water. The current was strong, pulling at us like invisible hands. I swam as hard as I could, my body screaming in protest. Halfway across, I heard her cry out. She was caught in the current, being pulled downstream. I fought my way toward her, grabbed her arm, and tried to pull her to safety. But just then, torches flared on the shore behind us. Shouts rang out. The guards had found us. "Swim!" she screamed. But I couldn't leave her. A guard spear struck the water near me, missing by inches. Hands grabbed me from behind, dragging me back toward the shore. I kicked, struggled, but I was too weak. They pulled us both out of the river, soaked and shivering, and dragged us back to the estate. The master was waiting. He stood there, calm and cold, while the guards threw us at his feet. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the air like a knife. "This slave has forgotten his place. This girl has disgraced her family. There must be punishment." He turned to the guards. "Put him in the cell. In the morning, he will be executed." She gasped. "No." Her voice shook, but she stepped forward anyway. "If you kill him, you will have to kill me too." For a long moment, there was silence. Then the master spoke again. "Take her away. She will not be harmed. For now." They dragged me back to the cell. My body was numb, my heart heavier than ever. This time, there were no tears, no whispers of hope, only the sound of the lock turning and the cold stone floor beneath me. I don't know how long I stayed there. Hours, days, time meant nothing. I thought about her. I wondered if she was still alive, if she had escaped somehow, if she regretted saving me. Then, one morning, the cell door opened again. A guard stood there, holding a set of papers. "Get up," he said gruffly. "You're free." I stared at him in disbelief. "What?" "You heard me. The girl, she gave the master her family's land. All of it, in exchange for your life." I stumbled out of the cell, blinking against the sunlight. I hadn't seen the sky in so long that it felt unreal. They took me to the edge of the estate and left me there. No chains, no whip. Free. But freedom felt like a weight on my chest. I found her where we used to meet by the old well. She was waiting, her face tired but her eyes bright. "You're free now," she said softly. "You can go anywhere you want." I looked at her. "You gave up everything for me." She smiled sadly. "Land can be taken back. Houses can be rebuilt. But a life, once lost, it's gone forever." I didn't know what to say. I wanted to hold her, to promise her I would stay. But deep down I knew I couldn't. If I stayed, I would always be looking over my shoulder, always afraid the master would change his mind, send someone after me. I had to leave. But leaving meant leaving her too. She seemed to read my thoughts. "Go," she whispered. "Go and find a place where no one can ever chain you again." Her voice broke on the last word, but she didn't cry. I turned to leave, my steps heavy. Every part of me wanted to run back to her, but I kept walking. When I reached the hill, I looked back one last time. She was still standing there, small and alone, but strong. I touched the key that still hung around my neck. "This is not the end," I said under my breath. "I will make this mean something. I will make every chain break." And then I walked on, toward a world I had never seen, with nothing but the clothes on my back, the key at my throat, and the fire in my chest. The road stretched ahead of me, dusty and endless. For the first time in my life, I could choose where my feet would take me. Yet every step felt heavy, as if I still carried invisible chains. Days turned into weeks. I walked from village to village, working for food, sleeping under the stars. People looked at me with suspicion at first, but when they saw my scars, they understood. Some gave me bread, some gave me shelter. Slowly, I began to feel human again, but I never forgot the well, the girl, or the night she gave up everything for me. One evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, I found a small settlement where no one asked about my past. The villagers were poor, but kind. They let me stay in an abandoned hut at the edge of the fields. I started working with them, tilling the soil, carrying water, mending fences. My body grew strong again. My hands became rough, my back straighter. But more than strength, I found purpose. I met others like me, men and women who had been slaves, servants, or prisoners. People with stories etched into their skin. We would sit around the fire at night, telling each other about the lives we had lost. And I realized something. I was not the only one who had dreamed of freedom. One night, I stood up in front of them. "We can't just survive," I said. "We have to help others. There are still so many out there who are chained, beaten, forgotten. We can't leave them behind." There was silence. Then one man nodded. Then another. That was the night we became more than survivors. We became brothers and sisters in a cause. Over the next months, we started helping others escape. We would sneak into estates under the cover of darkness, cut through locks, lead slaves to safety. Every rescue made my heart lighter. Every chain we broke felt like a piece of my own pain disappearing. But there were dangers. We were hunted. Some of us were caught. Some never returned. One night, after a successful rescue, we gathered around the fire. I took out the key I had kept around my neck since the day I left. "This was the key she gave me," I said. "It unlocked my chains, but now I know what it really means. It's a promise to keep fighting until there are no more chains left." From that night on, the key became our symbol. We carved its shape on pieces of wood and left them wherever we freed someone. A silent message that freedom had been there. Years passed. Our movement grew stronger. People started whispering about us, calling us the chain breakers. But with every victory, my heart longed more and more for the girl I had left behind. One day, after a long mission, I found myself standing near the old road that led back to the estate. My heart pounded. Was she still there? I knew I had to find out. The estate had changed. Its walls were higher, its gates guarded. But I knew every path, every hidden trail. Under cover of darkness, I slipped inside. The well was still there, and so was she. She was older now, her hair tied back, her face a little more lined, but her eyes were the same. When she saw me, she froze. "You came back," she whispered. "I told you this wasn't the end." For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then she stepped forward, tears filling her eyes. "I thought you were dead." "I almost was, but I kept living because of you, because of what you gave me." I held out the key. "This isn't just my freedom anymore. It belongs to everyone we've saved." She took the key in her hand, her fingers trembling. "I heard stories," she said softly. "Stories of a man who frees the chained. I didn't know it was you." "It was always you," I said. "You lit the fire that made me who I am." We stood there, the night silent around us. "I can't stay," I said finally. "There are still so many who need help, but I wanted you to know. I didn't waste what you gave me." She smiled through her tears. "You never could," she said. I turned to leave, but she grabbed my hand. "Wait," she said. "Take this." She pressed something into my palm. A small silver locket. Inside was a tiny scrap of cloth from the dress she had worn the night she freed me. "So you never forget," she said. "I never could," I whispered, and then I left, my heart both heavy and light. Years later, when people spoke of the chain breakers, they told stories of a man who carried a key around his neck and a locket in his pocket. They said he was unstoppable, that he fought not just with strength, but with love. And when I finally lay down one night, old and tired but free, I smiled. Because I knew that somewhere, in the quiet of the estate, she was looking at the stars and smiling too. The chains had broken, and the dream had come true.